Welcome to the latest version of Reading from the Archives, where we'll be looking at the world of sport, inspired by the forthcoming Olympic Games in Paris. The Norfolk Record Office holds hundreds of documents relating to sport. Some are handwritten, some printed in newspapers, and others are drawn. In this session, we will hear from a 19th century cyclist, a 20th century student at Oxford, and an asylum attendant from St Andrew's Hospital, amongst others.
Leonard Bolingbroke was a man who gave a lot to the city of Norwich. He was a solicitor, an avid collector of art, antiques, and other items. In 1899, he purchased a house in the city and moved his collection in and opened it up as a folk museum with the aim of showing everyday life. He eventually moved his family in also, and after running it as a private museum for 2 decades, he offered the building and his collection to the city of Norwich. His house was Strangers' Hall, which reopened as a museum in 1923. As well as being a collector, he was an enthusiastic cyclist, keeping a journal of his rides around the county, along with sketches that he'd made. In 1878, he purchased a Coventry Machinist's Roadster 50-inch penny farthing, details of which we hear in the very beginning of this journal.
May the 17th, 1878, Friday. The bicycle which I had sent down through the exchange of mart on approval arrived all safe, and I rode it up from the station. It is one of the Coventry Machinist's Roadsters 50-inch, and though it had evidently been used before, had not seen much service. I gave £11 for the machine, which is a long price, but the machine suits me very well. I went on a short ride on it, for the most part only up and down the lane. I also managed to get off by the step, which I had not accomplished before, 2 miles. May the 18th, 1878. Had not much time to use the bicycle, being very late home, but when for a short ride and practices getting off, 2 miles. May the 21st, Tuesday. Got up at 5 in the morning and rode down to Prince of Wales Road, where I left it at Denny's lodgings while I went up to shoot at Mousehold. Walked back to Denny's and rode home in time for breakfast. Roads rather muddy, 2 miles. Page 2. May the 22nd, Wednesday. Rode over to Heatherset in the evening. I did not ride Eaton Hill nor Cringleford Hill, stayed and had some beer at the Backs, and then rode on about a mile towards Wymondham to see Aunt Julia. It is a capital road from Heatherset to Wymondham. On my way back I went to Mrs. Buckham's to get some cream, which I carried home with me. This was thought to be a great achievement. When I got home, I went on to Nellie's with the cream. 13 miles. May the 23rd, Thursday. Being a half holiday, I started about 3 in the afternoon for Wymondham. The roads were in capital condition. Had a glass of beer at Heatherset, and then continued my ride. Wymondham is a very nice old town. The market house and the marketplace is a very quaint building, but the church is the best thing to see here. There is an archway standing detached from the church some distance, and one of the towers is in ruins. There are numbers of blocks of stone strewn about. Page 3. The churchyard and the abbey in former days must have been a big one. Did not stay here very long, however, and rode home in time for dinner. Had a glass of ginger beer at Eton, which is very bad stuff to take, as it makes your side ache. 18 miles. In the morning, before breakfast, I went up to Denny's lodgings and left the machine there while I went on to shoot. Rode back afterwards in time for breakfast. Wet. 2 miles. Total, 20 miles. May the 27th, Monday. My birthday. Went down the Ipswich Road before breakfast and sketched a view of the Yare Valley. Came back in time for breakfast. 3 miles. May the 28th, 1878, Tuesday. Went over to Mulbarton in the evening. The road is a fairly good one. You pass through Swardston on the way. The church is a very plain one and very uninteresting one. Mulbarton is about 1.5 miles further on. It's a pretty village, but it came on to rain, so after I had had a glass of beer, I returned home in steady drizzle. 8 miles. Page 4. Tuesday, May the 30th, 1878. Started about 9 a.m. for Surlingham, which I reached at 10. The road through Thorpe is a very decent one, but it is a bad road when you turn off the main road to the right by Poswick Church. However, going it as an incline, but it is mostly the other way. I came home in the evening, going through Carrow instead of along Prince of Wales Road. I find I make a great mess of getting off by the step when I am at all tired, and I bent my treadle in trying to get off at our house. The roads were in beautiful condition owing to the rain of the day before, and the day was very fine and warm. We sailed at a regatta during the day at Surlingham, but did not do at all well. When I got home, I took the machine to pieces and gave it a thorough clean. The weather was very fine. Distance about 12 miles. Friday, May the 21st, 1878. Went down to Harford Bridges and had a little bit of sketching. Fine. 3 miles.
These next documents date from the 1950s and include the classic sports reports from the newspaper. These extracts are included in an exercise book and make up part of the Chandler collection, named after W.B.H. Chandler, who was the clergyman of Stoke Holy Cross and a local historian. Norfolk Chronicle, 6th of June, 1952. Football dinner at Corpusty. The annual dinner of the Corpusty and Saxthorpe FC was held in the Castle Dance Hall on Saturday. In the presence of 45 members and friends, Mr. H. Wright, chairman, remarked on the sportsmanship of the players throughout the season. Although no trophies had been won, respectable positions had been attained by both teams, he said. Mr. S. H. Perry Warnes, who toasted the club, praised them for the consideration shown towards the children by giving them tea and entertainment at the end of the year. The Reverend W. B. Chandler, who introduced the visitors, made an interesting speech and showed his keen interest in village football. Mr. G. V. Eglinton responded and remarked that as secretary of the Reform Leagues, it was football from August to July for him. In the past season, over 500 letters and cards had been sent to him by various clubs in the district. The club treasurer, Mr. W. Smith, reported that although gate receipts were slightly down on the last season and new nets had been bought for the club, they had a profit of £28, 10 shillings and 3p from the season's working. Mr. A. Harrison, club secretary, said that H. Stearman and M. Easton were leading goal scorers in their respective leagues, and he thanked T. Harrison for assisting him in preparing the ground throughout the season. A dance concluded the evening's entertainment. Norfolk Chronicle, 10th of December, 1954. Corpusty take the lead again. Entertaining Runton last Saturday, the first 11 won by 4 goals to 1, a victory which enabled them to take over the leadership of the Holt and District League, as Aylmerton had no league match. The strong wind made good football impossible, and it was some time before the home team could adapt themselves to the conditions. F. Mills opened the Corpusty account midway through the first half, but this was soon nullified by the visitors. The second half opened with both teams level, but the home team, facing the wind, played with more cohesion and were able to control the ball more effectively. M. Ticheli gave the home team the lead with a brilliant goal, beating two men near the byline and scoring from an oblique angle. D. Barwick increased the lead from a pass from Mills. The visitors were outplayed in every department, and it was no surprise when Mills scored again. The outstanding feature in this match was the terrific kick by S. Harrison in the home goal, which was a great asset in the second half. The journals of Hilda Zigamala were written and illustrated between 1889 and 1920. The pages include a combination of diary entries, family photographs, drawings, paintings, and cuttings covering all aspects of domestic and family life. The social life of Hilda features heavily, including balls and parties, opera and drama at London theatres, and attendance at major public events, such as the opening of Parliament. Country pursuits and leisure activities such as painting, drawing, photography, sports, pets, travelling, and army life in England and abroad also feature. This extract discusses sport fairly briefly, but we hear about trips back to Norfolk to see friends and enjoy some cricket.
MC 2738/6. Rougham, July 30th to August the 5th, 1897. I came on here from Hastings on the 30th, Jack meeting me at Charing Cross and seeing me across to King's Cross, though he, I'm sorry to say, could not come down here with me, as he can't get away from the depot just now, though he hopes to later on. Colonel Hamford joined me at King's Cross, and we travelled down here together. As he is going down to Rougham for a few days, he's been up in the town to receive his Jubilee CB. It's simply lovely here, and so nice all being together once more, and especially having Marchie home again, as he's just arrived from Demerara. Fancy, I've not seen him for nearly 6 years, not since he came to see us off to India the first time. I went out, goodness, what a lot has happened since then, and what a lifetime ago it seems. Now we are a most cheery party, and the wit that flies about is wonderful. It's quite like old times once more. Val, Eric, and Dudley have just arrived too, for 10 days or so. So we really are a huge family party, and only need Jack to make it perfect. I do wish he could get away. Tomorrow we are going over to Norwich, nearly the whole family, to the cricket week, and to see all the old East Norfolk friends. We are mostly going to stay the night, so as to see 2 days' cricket. Val and Eric with the Ted Buxtons, Dora with the Birkbecks, Dussie at Catton, and I with Bissy Gurney. I think it ought to be great fun. Cringleford Grove, Norwich, 5th to 6th. We've had an awfully cheery 2 days' cricket here, and it has been so nice seeing all one's old friends once more. Each day we have lunched on the ground with Mrs. Gurney Buxton, and as Eric has been playing for the MCC, it has been very amusing watching the cricket, although, alas, it's not been quite first class. I've also enjoyed so much seeing something of Bissy Gurney once more, and she's made me so comfortable at Cringleford, which is a dear little house, and she and her husband have made it so pretty. Their baby Sylvia, too, is a dear mite and so pretty. We all returned to Rougham this evening as the cricket finished today.
George Allen Yates was an attendant at St Andrew's Hospital, which was the county asylum. Yates was also the band leader, an artist and composer. He drew cartoons of staff, patients, and the asylum cricket team, which is what we're looking at for this session. His often satirical commentaries, along with drawings of many named team members, provide a fantastic insight into the cricket team life of the staff of St Andrew's Hospital.
May 15th, 1926. Norwich Union Fire Office versus St Andrews. Inspired by Amundsen's example, a lot of people turned out to see a cricket match on Saturday, and they saw 11 nice new blue caps sally forth and take up various positions on the field. After allowing them a little time to enjoy the weather, 2 white caps appeared, and others at short intervals, and with their total at 68, our fans exposed their faces a moment for mutual congratulations. But when we had 5 wickets down for 15, one of them remembered a prior engagement, but our best cap slogged 57 and saved the situation. Yarmouth Exiles versus St Andrews. Mr Doggett took a day off last Saturday because one said bah, another said boo, and others assumed dissenting attitudes at his decisions. And now a noteworthy event must be recorded. At about 5:30, Mr Reed dashed off to the pavilion, came out struggling desperately, got the half Nelson on himself and emerged victorious, wearing a cricket cap for the first time in his existence. Mr Morley banishes a few to the cornfields and makes over 100. Mr Peacock must have had a new bat because he used any part of his anatomy in preference to his bat. Mr Pluckrose's bowling arm for a bit out of order and lumpy. The civil, as distinguished from the uncivil service, gave St Andrews a game on Saturday. Well, nothing happened to make them uncivil. The doctor dropped one because the sun was in his eyes, and Mr Reed because it wasn't. Mr Humes wishes it had been. In fact, if the revenue could be got as easily as the civil service for runs, they'd all be out of work, St Andrews soft-soaping their hands before taking the field. As for Captain Margrave, he can't envy any cat its lives. By the way, it requires a stretch of the imagination to classify captains or sergeant majors as civil servants. Auto-suggestion was responsible for Mr Pluckrose being run out. Last week, someone suggested that he was too fat, so now he imagines he is like this. Norwich teachers versus St Andrews. There are 1 or 2 exciting things that we have reason to be proud of. One is our ability to turn out cricketers at a moment's notice. Another is the spirit that prompted Mr Reed to fetch a bag of sawdust and deposit it in a conspicuous place on the field, so that Mr Alcott would, on coming over the horizon, have a landmark to give him some idea where they were playing. Having received a tip from Amundsen or Johnny Walker how to keep out the cold, they decide not to turn out thus. Another nice bit of sentiment was Mr Morley sending his little brother back to the pavilion before he commenced to hit hard, so that he shouldn't get hurt. Number 6. 23rd of the 5th, 31. Civil service versus St Andrews. Well, they had to be civil, or take the consequences. As it was expected Mr Clark to arrest Mr Martin any moment for contempt of bowling. Anyhow, Mr Martin did some good batting. After lunch, the hunter bowled fiercely and effectively. It must have been a good drop of lunch. Too bad of Mr Keeble to take the fielder's place after Dr Morris doing his best to deplete the field. Having persuaded the wicket-keeper to stay for company, Mr A. Morley sent the whole field hiking. The really wanted fielders up the trees.
This next document comes from the records of the Methodist Circuit of Dereham and Swaffham and relates to Shipdham. When the former Shipdham Methodist Chapel was put up for sale in the 1920s, the sports club were keen to move in. In a letter to the Reverend, the club secretary says,
Letton, Shipdham, Norfolk, 11th of March 1924. The Reverend Arthur Adlington, Trinity House, East Dereham. Reverend and Dear Sir, Shipdham Sports Club. At a committee meeting held on Monday last, I was directed to write to you as Minister of the Mid-Norfolk Mission and Chairman to the Wesleyan Methodist Church Trustees, to ask you to kindly place before the trustees the above club's proposal to purchase the disused chapel in Shipdham for conversion into a clubhouse and for your guidance in describing the objects of our club. I beg to enclose a copy of the rules, also to hand you the following particulars. The club was established on Peace Day, 11th of November 1921, by the ex-servicemen of Shipdham for the purpose of providing winter indoor sports, and is entirely self-supporting. A dry canteen has also been introduced for the provision of tea, coffee, tobacco, etc., and which is entirely managed by voluntary workers. The games are billiards, 2 tables, bagatelle, indoor bowls, darts, dominoes, etc. And you will see from the rules that we invite membership from the age of 16 and upwards at a nominal subscription of 2 shillings for the season, and are affiliated with the local football and cricket clubs. The main objective of the club is to provide the village with an inviting club room where its members can find some good evening indoor sports during the winter months, and the result of the club's efforts have been, so far, very successful. And, as you will no doubt realise, such an institution is having a very far-reaching effect in such an isolated village as this. The present club room which we rent is becoming somewhat cramped as our members increase. May I beg, therefore, that in placing these particulars before your committee, you will ask them to extend their favourable consideration by offering the club these premises at the lowest possible figure. A subcommittee was formed and has viewed the premises, and from their observations it would appear considerable expense will have to be incurred before the building, now almost derelict, can be made weatherproof and habitable. Thanking you in anticipation of your kind interest, yours faithfully, Jeff Tristan, Honourable Secretary and Treasurer. P.S. Will you please state in your reply whether there have been any burials inside the building at any time?
Our final documents come from a large collection of letters and other papers belonging to the Hewitson family of Salhouse. The collection includes First World War letters from Philip Hewitson to his parents, sent from the front. The letters we are hearing today are from slightly earlier, from when Philip was at college in Oxford in 1912. He talks about his desire to be on a sports team and finally getting that place, alongside other matters such as dinner with friends and what societies he should join.
Philip Hewitson, writing from Oriel College in Oxford to his parents, October 22nd, 1912. Is the Oxford Student Christian Union a good thing to join? I've just had papers sent. Me? Dear Father, thank you very much for the letter and £3, 16 shillings and 9pence, which has just come. It is a wretched day, practically raining the whole time. At present, I am not playing for the college at hockey or football, and I am disappointed. It gives me nothing to do each afternoon. The college plays 18 first 11 games and only 5 A-team matches, while there are 20 first 11 football games and only 9 A matches. So there are only 14 A matches against 38 others. I had hoped to get a lot of games up here, but if I don't play for the college, I can only average under 2 games a week. If I played in every A match, both hockey and footer, which hardly seems likely. The next hockey A match is not till November the 7th, while the next A footer game is not till October 28th. The college has 2 good backs at hockey, so I can hardly get into the hockey side this year. I have more chance at footer for the present. Outside left is not so very good, only the time I played I did rather badly, so I don't know whether they'll care to try me again. That's the state of affairs, and I'm not exactly keen on it. I have thought of taking up rowing, but that is the other extreme, and you never get an afternoon free. Last night, Richardson and I went to dinner at Vincent's, Oxford's crack club, with Kirby, an OR Hockey Blue and prospective Soccer Blue. After dinner, we were in the company of 3 other Blues too, having coffee, etc., all very nice, but I felt a bit fishy out of water. I did not go to the sermon on Sunday night for 3 reasons. I had done 3 chapels, it was pouring with rain, and it was the headmaster of Shrewsbury, whom I've often heard before. I'm going the next Sundays without fail to the Bishop of London and Archbishop of York. The matriculation was not very exciting. We all assembled at the lodge in cap and gown and white tie, and the Dean conducted us away to the Vice-Chancellor. First, we all signed our name and £3.10 in a book. Then we had a copy of the statutes given us, and he made a short Latin speech, and we went away. I was very energetic today and wrote 5 letters. I'm now going to find someone to come and have tea at Cadena to enliven this dreary afternoon. I enjoy my lectures. Edna Lyall's Knight Errant is very good. Much love, your very loving Philip. November 17th, 1912. Dearest Mother and Father, my luck in games has continued all this week. In fact, I have played 5 days out of the 6. On Thursday, I watched our cuppa. Unfortunately, we had to admit defeat, scoring 2 to 3 goals. Trinity played very well, and we had rather bad luck in hitting the bar on several occasions. On Friday, I got some really good hockey playing for AFH Wiggins 11 versus Oxford University Occasionals. Wigan is an Oriel man and a hockey blue. While the Occasionals are the crack Oxford Hockey Club, we won 6-2. I also got a hockey game yesterday for Oriel Reserves, so I did rather well on the whole. On Thursday night, I had a glorious time at the Mikado. I had some poached eggs at the Cadena at 6 and then went and stood in the queue from 6:30 to 7:15. Time went very quickly. Doors opened at 7:15 and I got a very good place. The play started at 8 and was grand. Some of the songs are magnificent and all are good. I had a letter from JG in answer to mine, and he said it was all nonsense and I must make time. He expected me for at least one night. It's all very well, but I can't be at his beck and call. I'm not going, but I suppose I may mortally offend him. I told him I'd go sometime. Surely that ought to content him. Reverend W. Temple is in Oxford now, and I went to tea with him in Richardson's rooms last night and went to hear him preach in St Mary's at 10:30 this morning. This afternoon I'm going to tea with a clergyman, Woodward, the chaplain of Wadham. I think the Holton people told him of me. On Friday I had a letter from Aunt Connie asking me to go out to dinner there tomorrow night and take Richardson, so we are both going to bike out. Today has been a glorious day, and I've been for 3 sets of walks, 2 with Powys Jones and 1 with a rather nice Harrow fresher, Bing by name. I went round the deer park behind Magdalen this afternoon. It is very pretty there. You'll be interested to hear that I've started smoking in moderation. I smoke very little, but it is just more sociable to be able to when you're sitting around the fire, talking in the evening sometimes. I had my cards done last week. They look very smart. Much love, your very loving Philip.